as we get ready. Obviously, spring training going on right now in Major League Baseball. Roch Kubatko does a great job for the Orioles, reporter for MASNsports.com. Give him a follow on X at MASNRoch, ROCH on X. And Roch is kind enough to join us now to talk all things Baltimore Orioles. Good morning to you, Roch. We were talking a little bit during the break. We know that last year might not have been the way that the Orioles faithful wanted it to go, but it feels like there's more optimism coming into spring training this year. What's the vibe generally around this Orioles team?
Yeah, it's funny. I saw some more fans in the airport flying back to Sarasota, and they're like, man, I hope it's better than last year. And I'm like, well, they finished in last place, so it's pretty much there's nowhere else to go but up, But yeah, there's a lot of excitement. I think a lot of it is just due to the new. This isn't a slam at Brandon Hyde or Tony Mansolino, who was the interim manager. But, you've got Craig Alvarez coming in, a lot of new coaches, a lot of new kind of impact players, Pete Alonso being the big one, but others. So I just feel like they're energized and, for the most part, feeling good about their health, though they've had a few issues. But they used 70 last year. So I think that, they 7 catchers, franchise record. They were just decimated with injuries. So I feel like they just needed this fresh start. Everybody's 0-0, and there is a kind of maybe a different vibe and a lot of optimism. They feel good about this team. I think a lot of us are just happy to have 2025 behind them.
I would agree. And Roch, it always helps when you get the polar bear as the big splash signing in the middle, that aircraft carrier, if you will, in the middle of the lineup. I think people forget, too, that one of the big moves early was acquiring Taylor Ward and one of the crazy trades, sending Grayson Rodriguez over to the LA Angels. What has Taylor Ward's impact been already? And a veteran bat that is going to be really great to help lengthen this Orioles lineup.
Yeah, I was joking with him the other day. I said, I'm old enough to remember when you were the big right-handed power bat they acquired. And then Pete Alonso came along, and we didn't know Alonso was even in play. So at the time, it was like, well, this is going to be the guy. They definitely wanted to improve their production from the right side of the plate. They tried that last year with Tyler O'Neill and Gary Sanchez, and that did not work out at all. O'Neill's back, of course. He didn't opt out of his contract. He was on the IL 3 times. Sanchez was hurt twice. He's gone. So Ward, we thought, was going to be the big pickup, and you almost kind of forget about him because of the polar bear. But, he's another, you're right, leader in that clubhouse, and he's a dangerous hitter, and you just plug him into left field. Obviously you could move him around, but that's probably going to be his spot. I think that's always played the last 3 years. And you can bat him anywhere from leadoff to cleanup, depending. We're told not to read too much into spring training lineup, so we don't really have a clue off of that. But this is a big bat, and I think it's, going to be much more productive than what they got from the right-handed hitters the previous year. But it is kind of funny. It's like, oh, yeah, right, Taylor Ward. We barely talk about him anymore because so many things have happened since then.
Roch, it's amazing in what we do here from a numbers perspective that there is respect, it feels like, in the betting market here for the Orioles, even though they did finish last, as you mentioned, only 75 wins a year ago. But plus 425 to win what could be a really jumbled AL East. We know, obviously, the Blue Jays are now so close to winning the World Series. They win the division last year. The Yankees are the Yankees. And we feel like the Red Sox are close to being back to being a playoff team. With this being that tough of a division, what do you think it would take for the Orioles to go from last to first this year?
Yeah, well, at least they have the example of the Blue Jays doing it, so they know it can be done. I feel like everybody is kind of predicted to be in the 80-plus win range in this division. If they were in any other division, I think people would feel a lot better about them winning it, or certainly being maybe the top wild card or whatever. It's going to be a struggle there, and they're going to have to, what are we talking, 87, 88 wins? I don't know, but every team is a problem. Even they've got some young pitchers back from injuries, and they're always a problem. And now they're, back at the Trop. The Yankees are the Yankees. The Red Sox, will they hit enough? But that rotation looks so good. And, of course, the Blue Jays go out and get Dylan Cease, but they lost Bo Bichette. But they're obviously going to be a big problem. So, but the Orioles don't seem intimidated by that at all. They're like, hey, there are guys who wanted to play in this division. To be the best, you got to go through the best. But it is a gauntlet. And, we'll see how that turns out. But there's really no easy marks here. And we also found out you better get off to a good start. They say, well, you can't win or lose in a division or whatever in April. The Orioles got off to that horrible start, and they never got out of that hole. So I think you can have a season with a really slow start. Even when they started to heat up a little, it's like, well, there's still 7 teams ahead of them for that last playoff spot. There was just no way they were ever going to make up that ground. So they have got to get up to a much better start than they did last year.
Yeah, Orioles will open at Camden Yards against the Twins. Then you have the Rangers, who have had a great offseason. And, oh, by the way, Paul Skeens and the Pirates be the first road trip there at PNC Park. So the offense will have their work cut out for them. I did want to focus on the pitching with you, Roch, because I know it had been a clamoring from Orioles fans to Mike Elias and company. Framber Valdez was just sitting right there. My God, he's going to fall right in your lap. Right. They didn't decide to spend the money there, but you make the big trade for Shane Baz. You bring in the veteran and Chris Bassett, both guys who have a lot of experience pitching in the American League East. You team them with Trevor Rogers and the finish he had to last year and the return to health for Kyle Bradish. Is it enough for this group, not only to be a contender playoff-wise, but do they have enough depth if the injury bug starts to get to them again?
I think they have the depth. Now, again, you can't afford to get wiped out, but they also brought back Zach Eflin, who had back surgery in August, and they saw the really, really good version of him after the trade deadline in 24, and then, of course, the injuries in 25, and completely changed his life. I couldn't even play with my kids, pick them up, anything. He's had this surgery, and we don't know if he's going to be ready for opening day. If he isn't, they're slow playing him. He will be soon enough. They're going to have 6 starters for maybe 5 spots. So they definitely like the depth. I think Chris Bassett's a really good signing. $18.5 million for this one season. He's kind of like the Benjamin Button of baseball. He's getting better as he's getting older. He's becoming a workhorse these last 4 seasons. He just turned 37. It's hard to explain. I think that signing would have been even better received among fans if it wasn't against the backdrop, like you said. Are they going to get Framber Valdez? They made a strong play for Ranger Suarez. Zach Gallen was still out there, and yet they end up with Bassett. And I think fans were like, well, we had our sights set a lot higher than that. But it just didn't work out. And Valdez ended up taking a 3-year deal. And I think the Orioles being overwhelming favorites might have been a little bit exaggerated at that time. But so they like the depth, and they feel like having Kyle Bradish back for a full season. Remember, this guy finished 4th in Cy Young voting in 2023. And the times he pitched before Tommy John and after, he was very good. They think he is a number one. And Trevor Rogers, and I know it's a smaller sample size, 18 starts, but was outstanding this past season and looks great in camp so far. He's really figured it out. So they feel like they've got a strong 1-2. It's as good as anybody's. But then it's like, all right, what about that Shane Baz? They did give up quite a bit to get him, including 2 of their top 4 draft picks this past year. But they think he's got ace stuff. But just putting it all together, and he's ball form now that he's past his Tommy John. Dean Kramer, I think, very underrated. Back in the bullpen, you know what you're going to get from him every year. And he led them in innings last year. So they may have to decide at some point, are we going to a 6-man rotation of some variation of that, or how we're going to fit 6 starters in here, because none of these guys are bullpen guys. So in that regard, they really do like the depth. But yes, if they'd gone out and gotten that stud number one, I think people would feel a lot better about it. They're going to still have to have a lot of things break their way, because even with, the depth is better, but all it takes is 2-3 injuries and that depth is gone.
Roch, only have about 90 seconds to go. People that know me well enough know that I'm a diehard Met fan, and the over-under on my questions to you today about Pete Alonso, the under is going to cash because I've reserved myself to one question about Pete being there in Charm City. We know what he's going to bring on the field. You're hoping 40 home runs from that side of the plate. But off of it, when you get to talk to him, how much of a difference maker can he really be in that clubhouse?
It's huge, and guys are gravitating to him. They love him. He's constant chatter with him, all the way going back to the live batting practice sessions. He's leaning against the dugout railing, and it's just constant talking. But a quick example, I don't know how much fans care about the media, but this guy hits a home run in Lakeland. It's a second home run in 2 games. And we requested mid-game to get Heston Kjerstad because he also homered, former first-round pick 2020. And when Alonso came into the game, he checked with a PR guy with the Orioles and said, hey, are they going to need me? And he said, they didn't request you. We're all waiting for Kjerstad outside the clubhouse in game. Alonso comes out in the street close, checks again to make sure we don't need him before he walks to his car. That may seem like a small gesture, but this is a superstar player who played in New York, who wants to make sure that he's taking care of us because it's a responsibility, and didn't want to be that guy that bolted while we decided we actually needed him. That told me a lot about the man that Pete Alonso is.